मार्केट अगले 20-25 सालों में 35-40 हज़ार तक जाएगा। 3,000 से जीरो नहीं होने वाला है। अभी टाइम है पुल बनने का। पैर बन के मूंगफली खाने का टाइम गया।
Hi guys, and welcome to Mentome's YouTube channel. My name is Alan Arundan, and today we're going to be talking about the stock market, right? So how did the stock market actually start? So first, if we actually see to the history, the first people in general who were interested or probably developed this concept of a stock market was the Dutch East India Company, right? So how did this actually work? Because the Dutches were the first one who actually were creating voyages for the East Indian region, in which they used to send ships across for voyages, where the idea was to actually go and find some treasures, right? So if in case the treasures were found and they were able to successfully come back to their homeland, then the voyage was successful, right? So in the success or not success is where the investors used to invest in those voyages, right? So if the voyages were successful, then the investors would end up making money, right? So and if on the other hand, if actually the voyages are not successful, then basically you'll lose out the money, right? So that's how trading in general actually started. Also at the same time, the same traders were also trading in spices, metals, treasures like silver, gold, etc., right? So all of this again used to get traded, and that's how the term merchant banking came into being, right? Now if you take the second example, then the United Kingdom is actually known for a lot of financial capital. In fact, it was the biggest financial capital of the world, and even today it holds a lot of financial capital, a lot of trading that actually happens in London, right? But the origins of this actually is in London, in the coffee houses of London, where the brokers and investors used to trade with each other. And the catch was that once the investors actually bought the security, if you had to sell the security again, you had to actually go through the streets of London to find the other investor and make a deal to actually sell the security. So those were the origins of the stock market in the UK, right? And from there, the same mercantile banks and the same kind of trading obviously has transferred into bit trading, to trading actually across terminals, and finally the trading of stocks in companies happening through mobile phones is where we have actually graduated, right? So let's take an example out here to understand what is the reason why a stock market or a stock exchange, why the trading of securities actually happens. So consider there are three friends in college, right? And one wants to be a business guy, an entrepreneur. The other is basically rich, his father is rich, so he has a lot of money. And the third one actually wants to take up a job in a investment bank, right? So years pass by, they all go in different directions, and the business guy obviously starts taking some money from his family and friends and starts his business successfully, right? Now the investment banker guy also, let's say, takes up a job at the investment bank. Now years go by, the rich guy obviously, and at the same time the rich guy is doing what the rich guy actually does, which is spending money, right? Now all this was fine until there was a problem with each of these people, right? So the business guy faced the issue of needing more capital to expand his business, because his expansion was going well, but now there's scarcity of capital. So, and at the same time, the investment banker obviously needs more client to make these deals happen. And at the same time, the HNI, whose father directed him that now he needs to invest, also use his brains to invest the money in order to actually enjoy the rich treasures that his dad has, right? So the three friends reunion, right? So the banker guy actually comes up with the idea that what if the HNI friend that you have invests in the business, right, and becomes a 25% ownership. So he takes the ownership of 25% of the entire 100% pie of the business, and in return the banker makes a commission of about 1%, right? So a few years later, now once the capital has been invested, let's assume that the business has grown, and now obviously there is another idea that we can generate in order to generate more income, right? So the banker guy comes up with another idea stating that okay, the friend has 25% ownership and the founder has 75% ownership in the business, so why don't we sell this ownership further, right? A part of this ownership of 100%, maybe even 20%, 30% to mass public, right? To people whom we don't know, right? In return, what would happen? You would make 20x return on whatever ownership structure you had. So if let's say you had let's say 10 rupees, so then that becomes 250 rupees, right? So 20x, right? Because that's how you're gonna spike up the valuation of the company, right? Because now let's say if you're saying that the company is of 100 rupees, and let's say 25 rupees is owned by the friend and 75 rupees is owned by, let's say, the founder. Now if we are able to jack up the valuation, which is what the investment banker is there for, if he is able to sell the story and people buy the story, then we're looking at that 100 rupees going 20x. But at the same time, the banker is also making the same commissions, which if it was, let's say, 100 rupees deal, he would make, let's say, about 1 rupees. But now if you're doing 20x, then that becomes 20 times, right? This is 20 rupees, right? So that's how the entire structure of initial public offering happens. So that's how the stock actually gets listed in the stock exchange. Now once the stock is actually listed, then obviously it changes hands again and again, but the pie doesn't change much, right? The pie is the same, the ownership is same. It's just going to change hands in the stock exchange. Now this is the same way the IPO of Zomato happened. It's the same way the Paytm IPO happened, and it's also the same way the DMart IPO happened, right? So from there, and this all activities basically happens in the National Stock Exchange, the Bombay Stock Exchange, the Bangalore Stock Exchange, and the Calcutta Stock Exchange, is where what you're basically trying to do is you're trying to take the same businesses and you're trying to make it more accessible. People are also able to take ownership of the company. So that's the simple explanation of what is a stock market. So I hope you like this video, and if you like this video, please subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you again next week. Bye bye.